A very good morning to all of you. I am Dr. Deepika Singh from India. It's a pleasure to be invited again. Last year,
你要不要请他来帮忙？比较快，比较快。对。我觉得你可以先。没有，他这里还是开静音。对他没有打开。打开了吗？我要开始讲话了。没有，有没有打开了？
现在我们的以前在这边。
不是声音，我要开始主持这场。
等一下。我们是这个吗？
我们不是，我们是那个。
因为这台是他设定，我叫他过来一下。
好，我们。
Hello, can everyone hear me here?
应该是不行，因为他刚刚不知道怎么开的，他从另外一个。
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, so now I'm introducing Dr. Wei Hongzhang, the moderator, to start this session. Hi, Deepika. Good to see you again.
hello, sir.
Okay.
Nice to meet you. Very good morning.
Okay, now it's Dr. Zhang. He will start to moderate.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wei Hongzhang, and I'm from National Cheng Kung University Hospital, and I'm honored to be the moderator of this symposium. So, So, is it clear? The voice is clear?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay. So the topic of this symposium would be the mental health in Asia. And it's our great honor to have our first speaker, Deepika Singh. Dr. Deepika Singh is from BJ Medical College and Session Hospital, and she's the assistant professor. She got great publications recently, and today she will talk about something about the compulsory buying, depressive symptomology, and coping strategy and personalities about the study. Okay, let's welcome Deepika.
Thank you so much, sir. A very good morning to all of you. I am Dr. Deepika Singh from India. It's a pleasure to be invited again. Last year, as Young Investigator Award winner, I was happy to visit Taiwan, and this time virtually as symposium presenter. The global paradigm shift in recent times brings in new psychological problems, compulsive buying disorder being one of them. In the past few decades, compulsive buying has moved from anonymity to an issue affecting a growing number of people. As per study by Black D.W. et al., the disorder has a lifetime prevalence of 5.8% in the US general population. Several recent studies have investigated compulsive buying behavior in India, China, and Taiwan as well. However, almost the entirety of knowledge in this area has been developed from samples in Western developed countries. So we are going to discuss compulsive buying disorder and its relationship with depressive symptomatology, coping strategies, and personality traits. Oniomania, pathological buying, shopaholicism, and buying addiction are different terminologies describing the compulsive buying phenomena. Compulsive buying disorder can be defined as chronic, excessive, and repetitive purchasing behavior which provides short-term positive regards and becomes a primary response to negative events or feelings, however, ultimately leads to harmful consequences or impaired quality of life. Some researchers have linked compulsive buying to impulse control disorders, while others have linked to obsessive compulsive disorder. Impulsivity is action without adequate thought or rapid and unplanned reactions without regards for behavioral consequences, while compulsivity is a trait in which actions are persistently repeated despite knowing adverse consequences. Now, compulsive buyers frequently meet criteria for Axis 1 disorders. Mood disorder, anxiety disorder, and substance use disorders are commonly seen. Eating disorders and disorders of impulse control are also seen. Depression is one of the most commonly associated comorbidity. Compulsive buying and coping strategies. Compulsive buyers resort to escape from stress by external methods such as buying alcohol, binge eating, sexual promiscuity, and other coping strategies. Compulsive buying can itself be an avoidance coping strategy which provides temporary relief from emotional state. Whenever any stressful situation or emotional turmoil arises, this transient relief buying behavior gets reinforced. Now we come to assessment of personality traits with the use of 5-factor model. The 5-factor model of personality, it includes neuroticism. So neuroticism represents emotional instability and a tendency to experience psychological distress. It includes traits like being pessimistic, excessively worrisome, nervous, and having a tendency to experience negative emotions. Extraversion. Extraversion refers to the general tendency of an individual to approach social situations. Extrovert people are confident, full of energy, socially active, outgoing, and have a tendency to experience positive emotions. Next, we have openness to experience.
他们现在是我们刚刚是
Video without audio。我去找他们。
It refers to being intellectually curious, having creative and imaginative cognitive styles, being open to new ideas and have wide
先
interests.
生，我先跟大家讲一下，
那你这样子的话，可能
有些人说听不太清楚。
你先跟大家讲一
好
下。
，OK。Sorry, there are some technical problems. So some members say that they can hear the voices clearly. So we are fixing right now. So please give us a second. We'll fix it as soon as possible.
所以那间的声音在那个导演那这一间可以，因为刚好像两间都没有声音设定好。
对，大家有人反映说声音听不清楚。
听不清楚。
这个吗？不是啊，
对啊，电脑没有这
他叫我调这个啊。
声音吗？
对啊，OK 的啊，USB 啊，没错啊。
现在是用这个没有错。
对啊，没错啊。要调吗？有。
可是我看在 YouTube 上面听是 OK，
好，还是其他地方。
会不会是他们的？
应该是录的关系吧。
那我们继续播好了。我跟他们讲一下，然后现在可以讲话吗？OK，
可以吧？可以。
可以了哈。
听得到吗？
我觉得就继续吧，还是要从头。好，那我们就从头喽。然后按这里嘛，对不对？我要讲话。
对。
这个嘛，哈。
我已经，那你对。
Hi everyone. We'll start again. If there's no voice, please let me know.
A very good morning to all of you. I am Dr. Deepika Singh from India. It's a pleasure to be invited again. Last year, as Young Investigator Award winner, I was happy to visit Taiwan and this time virtually as symposium presenter. The global paradigm shift in recent times brings in new psychological problems, compulsive buying disorder being one of them. In the past few decades, compulsive buying has moved from anonymity to an issue affecting growing number of people. As per study by Black DW et al., the disorder has a lifetime prevalence of 5.8% in the US general population. Several recent studies have investigated compulsive buying behavior in India, China, and Taiwan as well. However, almost the entirety of knowledge in this area has been developed from samples in Western developed countries. So we are going to discuss compulsive buying disorder and its relationship with depressive symptomatology, coping strategies, and personality traits. Oniomania, pathological buying, shopaholism, and buying addiction are different terminologies describing the compulsive buying phenomena. Compulsive buying disorder can be defined as chronic, excessive, and repetitive purchasing behavior which provides short-term positive regards and becomes a primary response to negative events or feelings, however, ultimately leads to harmful consequences or impaired quality of life. Some researchers have linked compulsive buying to impulse control disorders, while others have linked to obsessive compulsive disorder. Impulsivity is action without adequate thought or rapid and unplanned reactions without regards for behavioral consequences, while compulsivity is a trait in which actions are persistently repeated despite knowing adverse consequences. Now, compulsive buyers frequently meet criteria for Axis 1 disorders. Mood disorder, anxiety disorder, and substance use disorders are commonly seen. Eating disorders and disorders of impulse control are also seen. Depression is one of the most commonly associated comorbidity. Compulsive buying and coping strategies. Compulsive buyers resort to escape from stress by external methods such as buying alcohol, binge eating, sexual promiscuity, and other coping strategies. Compulsive buying can itself be an avoidance coping strategy which provides temporary relief from emotional state. Whenever any stressful situation or emotional turmoil arises, this transient relief buying behavior gets reinforced. Now we come to assessment of personality traits with the use of 5-factor model. The 5-factor model of personality, it includes neuroticism. So neuroticism represents emotional instability and a tendency to experience psychological distress. It includes traits like being pessimistic, excessively worrisome, nervous, and having a tendency to experience negative emotions. Extraversion. Extraversion refers to the general tendency of an individual to approach social situations. Extrovert people are confident, full of energy, socially active, outgoing, and have a tendency to experience positive emotions. Next, we have openness to experience. It refers to being intellectually curious, having creative and imaginative cognitive styles, being open to new ideas and have wide interests. Agreeableness. Agreeableness refers to an individual's concern for social harmony and cooperation with others. It is characterized by traits like selflessness, friendliness, empathy, trust, and being good-hearted. Conscientiousness is a spectrum of construct that describe individual to be self-controlled, responsible, hardworking, orderly, and rule-abiding. These people are well-organized, disciplined, productive, achievement-oriented, dependable, and scrupulous. According to previous research finding, compulsive buying disorder is associated with higher traits scores on neuroticism trait and extraversion trait. Despite growing concern over the increasing incidence of compulsive buying disorder, there is a paucity of research on it in Indian context. With this background, we decided to conduct a study with the aims and objective to assess the prevalence of compulsive buying disorder, to study their socio-demographic profile, to study its relationship with depressive symptomatology, coping strategies, and personality traits. So it was a cross-sectional single interview study done at a tertiary care teaching hospital for 6 months. After ethics committee approval, 200 MBBS students, interns, and postgraduate residents who fulfilled the inclusion and exclusion criteria were included in the study. The criteria are as mentioned over here. The study tools included semi-structured questionnaire, Nancy Ridgeworth's Richmond Compulsive Buying Scale, which measures both obsessive and impulsive dimension of compulsive buying was used, PHQ, Patient Health Questionnaire. It is one of the most common instruments used for depression screening, having 9 items, which corresponds to the 9 diagnostic criteria for MDD. Coping was assessed using coping inventory for stressful situations, CISS 21, which assesses three basic coping strategies: emotion-oriented, task-oriented, and avoidance coping. Mini International Personality Item Pool, Mini IPIP, assesses the big five personality traits. The data thus collected was tabulated and analyzed statistically. Now coming to results. The prevalence of compulsive buying, it was seen that 26.5% of participants were having compulsive buying, that is 53 out of 200 students. Few studies report the prevalence of compulsive buying to range from 12% to 16%. In a study by Leroux and et al., the prevalence was found to be 31.9%. The Richmond compulsive buying scales, it had these 6 questions. Of these, the mean score was 20.68 of the 53 compulsive buyers. They had higher mean scores on these 3 questions, question number 2, question number 5, and question number 6, which are mentioned. Next is socio-demographic profile. Now with respect to age. In our study group, majority of the subjects having compulsive buying belong to younger age group. See this 41 number? 41 participants belong to age group of 18 to 22 years of age. It is observed that younger age group is associated with increased inclination towards novelty seeking, and they have poor coping mechanisms. The age of onset in most studies appear to be in late teens or early 20s. Now next we have is gender. There were 97 males and 103 females in our study. It was seen that most compulsive buyers were females as compared to males. A study by Reish et al., Women and Addictive Buying, it showed that 80 to 95% of compulsive buyers are women. Authors have pointed that women do most of the shopping and spend more time than men engaged in this activity, and hence a simple fact of being more exposed to this activity might in itself make females more vulnerable to the compulsive buying phenomena. Majority of the students were unmarried and were from urban background, and there was no statistical significant difference between the two groups. Similarly, with regards to educational year or socio-economic class, there was no statistically significant difference between the two groups. Now coming to questions pertaining to compulsive buying. Of the questions, shopping affected finance and relationship. In that, 22.5% of the participants in those shopping affected finances and relationship. Out of these, 21.5% were compulsive buyers and 1.5% were non-compulsive buyers. Compulsive buying may lead to excessive splurging of money. Sometimes it reaches to a level where people spend a fortune utilizing their saved income, may even need to take loans or are in severe financial crunch. Interpersonal relationship may get affected because of less time spent with family, preoccupation with buying behavior, unnecessary expenditure leading to frequent fights, family members being troubled by money mongers. All these parameters may lead to a strain in relationship. In the study by Mittenberger et al., 68% of people with compulsive buying disorder reported that it negatively affected their relationship, while 77% had financial loss. Now coming to the second question, whether shop to escape or cope with negative emotions. 42.5% participants shopped to escape or cope with negative emotions. Of these, 24% were compulsive buyers and 18.5% were non-compulsive buyers. Thus, it was seen that compulsive buying disorder people shopped to escape or cope with negative emotions significantly more than other counterpart. The act of buying itself might function as a coping mechanism for dealing with problems and negative feelings, or serve as a way to escape from reality.
有人说要从头
Now
开
the
始，
third question, shop to increase self-esteem.
那我们就从头开始喽。
In this study, 5.5% participants felt that shopping increases their self-esteem. Of these, 20.5% participants were compulsive buyers.
先暂停。
The compulsive
对，我要跟大家讲，在哪里呀、Hi, we'll start again since the problem is fixed.
A very good morning to all of you. I am Dr. Deepika Singh from India. It's a pleasure to be invited again. Last year, as Young Investigator Award winner, I was happy to visit Taiwan and this time virtually as symposium presenter. The global paradigm shift in recent times brings in new psychological problems, compulsive buying disorder being one of them. In the past few decades, compulsive buying has moved from anonymity to an issue affecting growing number of people. As per study by Black DW et al., the disorder has a lifetime prevalence of 5.8% in the US general population. Several recent studies have investigated compulsive buying behavior in India, China, and Taiwan as well. However, almost the entirety of knowledge in this area has been developed from samples in Western developed countries. So we are going to discuss compulsive buying disorder and its relationship with depressive symptomatology, coping strategies, and personality traits. Oniomania, pathological buying, shopaholicism, and buying addiction are different terminologies describing the compulsive buying phenomena. Compulsive buying disorder can be defined as chronic, excessive, and repetitive purchasing behavior which provides short-term positive regards and becomes a primary response to negative events or feelings, however, ultimately leads to harmful consequences or impaired quality of life. Some researchers have linked compulsive buying to impulse control disorders, while others have linked to obsessive compulsive disorder. Impulsivity is action without adequate thought or rapid and unplanned reactions without regards for behavioral consequences, while compulsivity is a trait in which actions are persistently repeated despite knowing adverse consequences. Now, compulsive buyers frequently meet criteria for Axis 1 disorders. Mood disorder, anxiety disorder, and substance use disorders are commonly seen. Eating disorders and disorders of impulse control are also seen. Depression is one of the most commonly associated comorbidity. Compulsive buying and coping strategies. Compulsive buyers resort to escape from stress by external methods such as buying alcohol, binge eating, sexual promiscuity, and other coping strategies. Compulsive buying can itself be an avoidance coping strategy which provides temporary relief from emotional state. Whenever any stressful situation or emotional turmoil arises, this transient relief buying behavior gets reinforced. Now we come to assessment of personality traits with the use of 5-factor model. The 5-factor model of personality, it includes neuroticism. So neuroticism represents emotional instability and a tendency to experience psychological distress. It includes traits like being pessimistic, excessively worrisome, nervous, and having a tendency to experience negative emotions. Extraversion. Extraversion refers to the general tendency of an individual to approach social situations. Extrovert people are confident, full of energy, socially active, outgoing, and have a tendency to experience positive emotions. Next, we have openness to experience. It refers to being intellectually curious, having creative and imaginative cognitive styles, being open to new ideas and have wide interests. Agreeableness. Agreeableness refers to an individual's concern for social harmony and cooperation with others. It is characterized by traits like selflessness, friendliness, empathy, trust, and being good-hearted. Conscientiousness is a spectrum of construct that describe individual to be self-controlled, responsible, hardworking, orderly, and rule-abiding. These people are well-organized, disciplined, productive, achievement-oriented, dependable, and scrupulous. According to previous research finding, compulsive buying disorder is associated with higher traits, scores on neuroticism trait and extraversion trait. Despite growing concern over the increasing incidence of compulsive buying disorder, there is a paucity of research on it in Indian context. With this background, we decided to conduct a study with the aims and objective to assess the prevalence of compulsive buying disorder, to study their socio-demographic profile, to study its relationship with depressive symptomatology, coping strategies, and personality traits. So it was a cross-sectional single interview study done at a tertiary care teaching hospital for 6 months. After ethics committee approval, 200 MBBS students, interns, and postgraduate residents who fulfilled the inclusion and exclusion criteria were included in the study. The criteria are as mentioned over here. The study tools included semi-structured questionnaire, Nancy Ridgeworth's Richmond Compulsive Buying Scale, which measures both obsessive and impulsive dimension of compulsive buying was used. PHQ, Patient Health Questionnaire. It is one of the most common instruments used for depression screening, having 9 items, which corresponds to the 9 diagnostic criteria for MDD. Coping was assessed using Coping Inventory for Stressful Situations, CISS 21, which assesses 3 basic coping strategies: emotion-oriented, task-oriented, and avoidance coping. Mini International Personality Item Pool, Mini IPIP, assesses the Big 5 personality traits. The data thus collected was tabulated and analyzed statistically. Now coming to results. The prevalence of compulsive buying, it was seen that 26.5% of participants were having compulsive buying, that is 53 out of 200 students. Few studies report the prevalence of compulsive buying to range from 12% to 16%. In a study by Leroux M. et al., the prevalence was found to be 31.9%. The Richmond compulsive buying scales, it had these 6 questions. Of these, the mean score was 20.68 of the 53 compulsive buyers. They had higher mean scores on these 3 questions, question number 2, question number 5, and question number 6, which are mentioned. Next is socio-demographic profile. Now with respect to age. In our study group, majority of the subjects having compulsive buying belong to younger age group. See this 41 number, 41 participants belong to age group of 18 to 22 years of age. It is observed that younger age group is associated with increased inclination towards novelty seeking, and they have poor coping mechanisms. The age of onset in most studies appear to be in late teens or early 20s. Now next we have is gender. There were 97 males and 103 females in our study. It was seen that most compulsive buyers were females as compared to males. A study by Reish et al., Women and Addictive Buying, it showed that 80 to 95% of compulsive buyers are women. Authors have pointed that women do most of the shopping and spend more time than men engaged in this activity, and hence a simple fact of being more exposed to this activity might in itself make females more vulnerable to the compulsive buying phenomena. Majority of the students are married and were from urban background, and there was no statistical significant difference between the 2 groups. Similarly, with regards to educational year or socio-economic class, there was no statistically significant difference between the 2 groups. Now coming to questions pertaining to compulsive buying. Of the questions, shopping affected finance and relationship. In that, 22.5% of the participants in those shopping affected finances and relationship. Out of these, 21.5% were compulsive buyers and 1.5% were non-compulsive buyers. Compulsive buying may lead to excessive splurging of money. Sometimes it reaches to a level where people spend a fortune utilizing their saved income, may even need to take loans and are in severe financial crunch. Interpersonal relationship may get affected because of less time spent with family, preoccupation with buying behavior, unnecessary expenditure leading to frequent fights, family members being troubled by money mongers. All these parameters may lead to a strain in relationship. In the study by Mittenberger et al., 68% of people with compulsive buying disorder reported that it negatively affected their relationship, while 77% had financial loss. Now coming to the second question, whether shop to escape or cope with negative emotions. 42.5% participants shopped to escape or cope with negative emotions. Of these, 24% were compulsive buyers and 18.5% were non-compulsive buyers. Thus, it was seen that compulsive buying disorder people shop to escape or cope with negative emotions significantly more than other counterpart. The act of buying itself might function as a coping mechanism for dealing with problems and negative feelings, or serve as a way to escape from reality. Now the third question, shop to increase self-esteem. In this, 25.5% participant felt that shopping increases their self-esteem. Of these, 20.5% participants were compulsive buyers. The compulsive buying makes them feel good about themselves and they buy more and more, and thus the vicious cycle repeats. Now next question was family history of psychiatric illness. 5% of patients had family history of psychiatric illness. Of these, 4% were compulsive buyers. As per Black DW et al., it has been seen that first-degree relatives of compulsive buyers were more likely to have depression, alcoholism, anxiety, and impulse control disorder. Next question regarding purchasing power. In medical college, only interns and postgraduate residents get a monthly stipend. If purchasing power is seen with respect to stipend amount, we can assume that participants who earn themselves would be more compulsive buyers as compared to those who are dependent on money received from family or friends. However, there was no significant difference seen with respect to buying power in between the two groups. According to latest study, compulsive buying is not linked to purchasing power since it is also found in a low-income population. Now coming to compulsive buying and depression. Depression can be seen as an after effect of compulsive buying disorder, or it may also be a predisposing factor to compulsive buying, wherein compulsive buying acts as coping mechanism to overcome the depressive state. Now, of the study population, as per PHQ-9, depression was seen in 19% of the participants. 60.38% of compulsive buyers has depression, while only 4.08% non-compulsive buyers had depression. Thus, depression was seen significantly more in compulsive buyers as compared to non-buyers. Here, in this pie chart, we can see 60% of compulsive buyers had depression and around 40% had no depression. Now, on administering Spearman's correlation, compulsive buying behavior was positively correlated with increasing severity of depression. That is, more the compulsive buying, more the depression, and vice versa. Coming next to coping strategies and compulsive buying. In our study, it was seen that compulsive buyers used more of avoidance and emotion-oriented coping, while non-compulsive buyers used more of task-oriented coping. On Spearman's correlation, it was found that compulsive buying was negatively correlated with task and positively correlated with avoidance and emotion-based coping. That is, more the compulsive buying, more is avoidance and emotion-oriented coping, and less of task-based coping. Now coming to compulsive buying and personality traits. In our study, as per analysis of variance, that is ANOVA, compulsive buying was significantly associated with neuroticism and extraversion traits. On administering Spearman's correlation, it was found that compulsive buying was positively associated with neuroticism and extraversion and negatively associated with conscientiousness. Almost similar findings were seen in the 5 studies mentioned here. These are the 5 studies by Wang et al., Balbansky, Mowen and Spears, and this is the last one is our study, which shows positive correlation with neuroticism and extraversion, no significant association with openness to experience and agreeableness, and negatively correlated with consciousness. Now to summarize and conclude, prevalence was 26.5%. It was seen more in younger age group and in females. 79.24% of compulsive buyers had significant trouble with finances and relationship. Around 15% of compulsive buyers had positive family history of psychiatric illness. Majority of compulsive buyers used shopping to escape or cope with negative emotions. Around 77% used shopping to increase their self-esteem. Majority, 60% of compulsive buyers had depressive symptomatology, which we assessed using PHQ-9, the screening instrument. Compulsive buying was positively correlated with avoidance and emotion-based coping and negatively correlated with task-based coping. Higher scores on neuroticism and extraversion and low on consciousness was seen. The clinical implications of our study. This study explores the relationship between compulsive buying, depressive symptomatology, coping strategies, and personality traits. Based on the findings, it can be hypothesized that a young-aged female with low self-esteem, with family history of psychiatric illness, having mild depression and poor coping skills, with neuroticism and extraversion personality traits, are more prone for compulsive buying tendencies. This research can make medical students aware of their compulsive buying habits. It can help them identify such tendency and seek professional help at the right time. There were few limitations in our study. Firstly, the depressive symptomatology was identified using screening instrument. It may result in possible underestimation in the prevalence rate of depression. Secondly, due to the fact that all variables were assessed by self-report measures, socially desirable responses may have been given. Thirdly, inferences about causation between variables cannot be raised because of the cross-sectional nature of data. And finally, As study was done in a closed sample of medical students, it cannot be generalized. Here are my references. And in the end, I was running out of quotes and also penned down few lines. I feel hopeless and in despair. To me, life doesn't seem fair. At times, I may be cranky. My friends call me a cheeky monkey. When things make me cry, I love to simply go out and buy. The idea of shopping makes my eye go popping. But then I end up with a guilt. And again, life seems to wilt. Thank you so much for having me here. Thanks a lot.
Hello everyone,
Thanks
my
for
name is
the,
Swachirapon
great speech.
Arunotong, a child and
due to
adolescent
the limited-
psychiatrist from Thailand. It's my pleasure to share my talk about adverse childhood events and its related mechanisms and impacts to you. So I will go first with the definitions of adverse childhood events, or in short, ACE.
Okay. So due to the limited time, so we'll finish all the presentation and we'll discuss later together. Okay. So now I'll introduce the second speaker, who is the Wakiraporn Aruthond. And he's the a doctor from Department of Psychiatry, Lampon Hospital in Thailand. And today he's going to talk about the adverse childhood events, evolving theories, and impact. So let's welcome Dr. Wakiraporn.
Hello everyone, my name is Swachirapon Arunotong, a child and adolescent psychiatrist from Thailand. It's my pleasure to share my talk about adverse childhood events and its related mechanisms and impacts to you. So I will go first with the definitions of adverse childhood events, or in short, ACEs. It's a traumatic event that occurs during childhood period before the age of 18. According to the CDC Kaiser Permanente study, ACEs are divided into 10 events, 3 types, including childhood abuses that include physical, emotional, sexual abuse, and neglect, which include physical and emotional neglect, and family dysfunctions that include living with family members with mental illness, living with incarcerated family members, parental separation or divorce, and living in a family that uses illegal substances, and being a witness of domestic violence toward the mother. ACE increased its attention among public and healthcare members in the study of CDC Kaiser Permanente Adverse Childhood Experience that was conducted from 1995 to 1997 among 17,000 HMO members from Southern California. The study reported that 63% of participants had at least one ACE, and around 12.5% participants had 4 ACE or more. ACE also show graded relationship with negative health and well-being outcomes. People who had experienced 4 or more categories of childhood exposures had 4 to 12 times increase of health risks for alcohol, drug abuse, depression, and suicide attempts, and these people had 2 to 4 times increase in smoking, poor self-related health, had more than 50 sexual intercourse partners, and STDs. In addition, these people had 1.4 to 1.6 times increase in physical inactivity and severe obesity. So why ACE had an impact on physical and emotional health? There are many assumptions and studies explain. Stress and HPA axis. So when stress occurs, the HPA axis is activated. Corticotropin releasing hormone at hypothalamus is releasing and activating ACTH in anterior pituitary. Then ACTH activates the adrenal cortex to release glucocorticoid. Then glucocorticoid goes to their receptors everywhere in the body, including the pituitary, to create negative feedback. The negative feedback mechanism controls the balance of the HPA axis. Cortisol, the main glucocorticoid in the human, had a top role in releasing glucose into the bloodstream in order to facilitate the flight or fight response. Cortisol also suppresses and modulates the immune system, digestive system, and reproductive system. A healthy stress response is ended quickly. It raises the appropriate cortisol levels and is followed by a rapid decline with the termination of the stressful event. When humans are burdened by cumulative stress, the cortisol level is increased and results in the development of psychiatric, neuropsychiatric, and metabolic disorder. Effect of stress and cortisol causes the neuronal change and neurotoxicity, and it causes the effect to the brain. Stress and trauma has effect on the brain in many areas, include amygdala, hippocampus, prefrontal cortex, and brainstem. So when stress occurs, the cortisol levels and adrenaline increase to respond to the stress. The higher level of cortisol has been shown to damage cells in hippocampus. Researchers have found that people who suffer from chronic trauma, for example childhood abuse, actually have a smaller hippocampus. Having a smaller hippocampus may contribute to difficulties with learning and memory. Adrenaline that is released during stress goes to the amygdala. The amygdala is the area that responds to emotional memory. An overactive amygdala causes anxiety and the re-experiencing of the traumatic memory. Neuroimaging also shows that during the trauma, during the trauma and fear, the prefrontal cortex, which normally help us think, plan, and solve problems, goes offline. So people don't have the planning and thinking section during stress or fear situations. So this makes people experience difficulty to focus, problem solve, and feel pleasant. During an acute trauma, the brainstem automatically reacts to the threat by activating the flight, fight, freeze, collapse response. People can react by becoming angry, wanted to fight, or to fight to defend themselves, or they can feel an urge to run or flee. Sometimes people feel frozen and unable to move, but inside the brain, the body, there is a very high stress environment and with the elevated levels of stress hormones. Polyvagal theory is and neuroception is another theory that I would like to mention. This is the theory that uses to explain stress and the physiological response in our body among traumatic psychologists and psychiatrists. It is believed that the vagus nerve plays a central role in the emotional regulation, social connection, and fear response. The theory explains about the evolution of autonomic nervous system, that the primitive system unmyelinated vagus, which is located on the dorsal motor of the vagus, control the response of immobilization, freezing, fainting, and passive avoidance response. The sympathetic adrenal system, located in the spinal cord, control the response of mobilization. Active avoidance and demyelinated vagus, located on the nucleus ambiguous, relates to social communication, self-soothing, calming, and inhibiting arousals. So the primitive one relates to parasympathetic and control baseline metabolism, heart, and breath. The sympathetic control metabolism and muscular activities, and the myelinated vagus control love, affection, empathy, and social activity. So, if people interpret the environment outside as a life threat, the response of the body could freeze and collapse. And if people interpret a danger, their response is fighting. And if the people response is safe, they can make a social engagement, eye contact, and social response. This is used to explain the behaviors of children who have reactive attachment disorders and children who have PTSD. Neuroception is another term that describes how neural circuits distinguish whether situations or people are safe, dangerous, or are life-threatening. And because of our heritage as a species, that I would like to mention a little bit about the triune brain theory. That is the theory that explains the brain evolution and response to stress. The reptile brain can respond to stimuli as flight or fight and is located in our brain too. And mammal brain does emotional and memory response, and human brain can create the listening response. So therefore, when the stress is too high and the circuit is frozen, the response may be stuck in some area in the reptile brain or mammal brain in our brain. So when we interpret the situations like the threat, the brain that we use is the primitive parts of the brain, so we use it without our conscious awareness. So when the brain interprets a safe environment, the social engagement occurs because we use the higher brain functions. So when stimulus occurs, our external senses receive them. The internal response from our brain stem responds to the stimulus without conscious awareness. Then later the cortex words respond to it by using belief, imagination, learning, and past experiences. So in only safe environments, social engagement and learning can be activated. I would like to emphasize this. So another term that I would like to explain is about the allostatic load. The allostatic load is defined as the cost of chronic exposures to elevated or fluctuating endocrine level or neuronal responses resulting from chronic stress. In humans, during stress, there is a secretion of glucocorticoids and activities of other mediators of allostasis, such as autonomic nervous system, CNS neurotransmitters, and inflammatory cytokines. If people have enough resources to counter the stress, the adaptation occurs. And we use the term allostasis for this situation. And if the allostatic load is chronically high, we use this term, and the pathologies may develop. Therefore, stress or traumatic events in people's life do not always create the negative consequences. It can create the adaptation, and we call it allostasis, and learning experience if people have enough resources or support. An allostatic load can cause an effect to HPA axis and immune system as presented before. Also, it can affect the chromosome. Evidence shows that the telomere length can be affected by stress. Telomere is a cap-like feature at the end of a chromosome that helps to protect them when the chromosome divides. Telomere associated with aging. Stress and trauma can shorten the telomere length and result in accelerating the aging process and could lead to premature death. This might be the explanation why the people with ACE have premature death. So when talking about the genes, there are some susceptible genes that can be affected from stress and trauma and result in psychiatric disorder. For example, the 5-HTT-LPR, people who have these short variants of this gene, when they have trauma, they have higher risk of depression. Variants of CRHR1 are associated with post-trauma psychopathologies, and FKBP5 genetics variability associated with subclinical depression and anxiety symptoms in children who have had trauma. Epigenetic is another phenomenon that explains the effect of trauma to gene. Epigenetic is the phenomenon of heritable phenotype changes that do not involve alteration in the DNA sequences. Epigenetic explains that trauma can leave a chemical mark on a person's gene, which then it can be passed down to subsequent generations. Therefore, grandma's trauma can leave marks to their subsequent generations. Our previous studies from mice also confirmed that the offsprings of a traumatized male mice that later mated with an untraumatized female show epigenetic and behavioral changes without having experienced trauma and can be carried out like this for 6 generations. These mice that bred were the descendants of the stressed father displaying more risk-taking behavior like exploring exposed area of a platform. So when this mice into the water, they gave up, they stopped swimming sooner than control mice, which is the signs of the depression in the mice. And a subsequent study from the same lab that created the enriched environment for the traumatized mice found that the environment that was designed to stimulate the pup senses could eventually help correct some the alterations which have been induced by trauma. So therefore, to summarize, although the ACEs themselves leave many consequences among patients who have had exposed, there are ways to recover from trauma, and one way to heal this is to create the enriching environment for those who had been traumatized. So the later nurture is more important than the nature. So thank you very much for your participating, and if you have any questions, you can leave after this. Thank you very much.
Welcome everybody. My presentation for today is Collaboration, Networking and Fellowship Opportunities in Psychiatry, Early Career Psychiatrist Workshop.
Okay. Thank you for your report. And now we'll introduce the following speakers. The Dr. Karpan Kard Mohinder Singh, who is the Associate Professor from Department of Psychiatry, Mahatma Gandhi Mission's Medical College. And today, the topic would be the collaboration, networking, and fellowship opportunities in psychiatry, early career psychiatry workshop. So let's welcome Dr. Karpan Mohinder Singh.
Welcome everybody. My presentation for today is Collaboration, Networking and Fellowship Opportunities in Psychiatry, Early Career Psychiatrist Workshop. I shall conduct this presentation covering background, perceived need, aims and objectives. Widespread emphasis has been given on specific nurturing of young psychiatrists. Welcome everybody. My presentation for today is Collaboration, Networking and Fellowship Opportunities in Psychiatry, Early Career Psychiatrist Workshop. I shall conduct this presentation covering background, perceived need, aims and objectives, early career psychiatrist definition, international fellowships, application process, CV building, collaboration and networking. Early career psychiatrists are the torchbearers of the future. Globally, widespread emphasis has been given on specific nurturing of young psychiatrists. The early career psychiatrist phase is an extremely important phase for the trajectory of one's career in clinical training, research and academics. What's the perceived need for this workshop? Psychiatry as a discipline will undergo major changes in the coming years. The new generation of psychiatrists must be prepared to face these challenges at a national as well as global level and deal with them appropriately. The aims and objectives of this presentation are to create awareness regarding various fellowship opportunities for early career psychiatrists, to share perspectives on skill building, networking, collaboration and career enhancement perspective. What is the definition of early career psychiatrist? The term early career psychiatrist includes psychiatry trainees and psychiatrists within 7 years after specialization in psychiatry. This is featured in the WPA section on ECP. There are also certain other definitions of early career psychiatrist. Certain organizations consider age less than 40 years, certain consider age less than 35 years, some consider less than 10 years after degree, some consider less than 7 years after degree, and some consider an ECP as less than 5 years after degree. These differences in the definition could be due to differences in training pathways across various countries. Specialization in psychiatry is considered to start with the doctor's recognition by his or her National Medical Council or its equivalent entity as a psychiatrist, that is specialist or specialty doctor. The WPA ECP section, the World Psychiatric Association, the largest psychiatric association representing more than 2 lakh psychiatrists all over the world, has developed several initiatives dedicated to ECPs. There are also various other national, zonal, or country-level ECP sections such as the EECP, AFPA, YPN, Canadian ECP, RANZEP ECP, Brazil Psychiatry Association, Egypt ECP, Germany, France, Japan, Royal College UK, Portugal ECP, Canadian ECP. Different countries have developed their ECP sections. I have given the reference of this paper by Fiorillo et al. There may be many other ECP sections which have also come up, and I may have not covered them in my presentation adequately. So what's the purpose of these ECP networks? These networks work for mentorship, employment, academic development, health and well-being, leadership development and networking, and a focus on continuing medical education for the young psychiatrist. My second half of the presentation focuses on international fellowships. There are various international fellowships in psychiatry and young psychiatrist travel grants and awards which are available from various international, regional as well as national organizations for the young psychiatrist. The WPA Fellowship for ECPs. World Psychiatric Association has been awarding fellowships for early career psychiatrists globally towards attendance and presentation at the annual WPA World Congress of Psychiatry regularly. The WPA ECP Fellowship Award provides academic support for the early career psychiatrist awardees. It provides a unique opportunity for presenting at the World Congress and attending academic sessions which are specially designed for the ECPs. The focus on these fellowships are on clinical research and publication skill enhancement across presentation, workshops, symposiums, and they offer a wonderful one-to-one interactions with renowned experts and mentors in psychiatry. There are also various other organizations which are offering fellowships for early career psychiatrists. The World Association of Social Psychiatry offers the WASP Fellowship towards attendance at their conference, global conference of the WASP. The Royal College of Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatry has also been offering fellowships in the past towards the attendance of psychiatrists globally for their congress. European ECP also has the ECP Fellowship, which is focused on early career psychiatrists in the European region. There are international fellowships for early career psychiatrists also offered by the Ain Shams University in Cairo, which felicitates the attendance of fellows towards presentation and attendance at the annual conference organized by the Ain Shams University in Cairo. The Japanese Society of Psychiatry and Neurology holds its annual congress, and it offers fellowships to psychiatrists all over the world, which is called as the JSPN Fellowship, which gives an excellent opportunity for the young psychiatrists to network and collaborate for research. The ICAPAP is offering the DJ Cohen Fellowship regularly for child psychiatry. Coming to the international travel grants for young psychiatrists, EPA, WFSBP, CINP, the Royal College of Psychiatrists, UK, the International Society for Schizophrenia, these towards their annual congresses do offer travel grants to young psychiatrists for availing it and attending and presenting at the congress. Coming to what is the application process for these fellowships, most of the application processes can be variable depending on the organization to organization. However, most of them do ask for an abstract for presentation at the Congress. Some of them can ask for a very detailed CV. Some of them may just request a short CV. Some fellowships also ask for some motivational letters by the candidate as to why they should be selected for the fellowship, and some of them ask for letters of references from their mentors or their supervisors or the heads of the department or the institutions where they work. Certain organizations also ask for a letter of reference from the president of the National Psychiatry Association or a section which the applicant may be a member of. Sometimes some fellowship applications ask for specific question and answers, or even may ask for a summary in a particular area as per the theme of their fellowship. Annexures such as a copy of passport, degree certificates, no objection certificates, or other requirements which the candidate may have to prepare while applying for these fellowships. Coming to the area of CV building for an early career psychiatrist, a CV which would look good in the application should focus on the degree of the candidate, work experience, awards and honors in psychiatry, any research work that the applicant is currently working on, publications in index journal either as first author or as co-author may be highlighted, presentations done either a paper at a conference or a poster or any symposium or workshop conducted by the applicant may be highlighted. Any award presentations given should also be highlighted in the CV. Additional work done by the ECP across psychiatry associations, NGOs, organizations, any community work, any innovative work or idea that the ECP is working on may also be highlighted in the CV for the application. Coming to the next part on collaboration and networking. Collaboration and networking gives an excellent platform for young psychiatrists to get connected with each other. This helps decrease professional isolation. It provides an excellent platform for advocacy of improvement of training and working standards. It facilitates the local, national and international sharing of experiences in psychiatry. This collaboration and networking among the young psychiatrists could be at a local level, at a national level, at a regional, zonal and even international level. This collaboration and networking could be in the form of a research paper that the young psychiatrist would like to publish together. It could be a symposium that they can collaborate and present at a Congress of Psychiatry. It can be a workshop that the youngsters can get together and do. Certain campaigns and advocacies also, youngsters and the young psychiatrist can collaborate and network together across different countries, especially towards mental health awareness or any key area that they wish to work for very proactively in psychiatry. Keeping this theme of collaboration and networking, I have penned some few lines as a short poem on collaboration and networking. I shall share my poem. Innovation is the current need. This you must carefully pay heed. New trends are emerging every day. I suggest you seek out your own way. Network around with a proper focus. Learn to be wise in the hocus pocus. Say a pleasant, how do you do? Then you shall hear, I'm fine, thank you. Introduce yourself, my name is so and so, but please tell me your name before you go. Pass me your email or even a number. Let me save it properly before I slumber. What is your area of passion and interest? Let us collaborate together for the rest. A symposium, workshop or a publication are possible if there is a desired inclination. Learning to collaborate with one and all, help each one in the field to stand tall. Let us all take psychiatry forward together from this moment on, now and forever. Coming to my last two concluding slides on anecdotes for early career psychiatrists, my message to all the youngsters out there: think differently, be proactive, do not fall into I can't do it traps. Try to have intellectual honesty, Be persistent and give your sincere dedication towards your PCP phase. Don't feel disheartened if rejected from any platform. Keep applying across various fellowships and opportunities. Try to help others. Ask for help. Learn to collaborate and network with all. With this, I shall come to the end of my presentation, and I am very grateful to the audience for listening to this presentation. I'm very grateful to the organizers of Revamp 2020 Organizing Secretariat for giving me this lovely opportunity to be a part of this Congress. And I'm very grateful to all the audience and the organizers for this lovely opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll have our last but not least speaker, Professor Lima. Okay, Professor Lima, can you hear my voice? Hi. Can you hear my voices?
Hello, Professor. Hello.
Hi, Professor Lima, can you hear my voice?
Yes, very clear.
Oh, great. Okay, so let me briefly introduce the Professor Lima. And Professor Lima is the Vice Chief of Technical Office, as well as the Vice President and Director of Board Academic, Chenla University. And today he's going to give us a speech about the study of knowledge, attitude, and practice about the mental health illness among the medical faculty of Chenla University in 2020. Okay, so let's welcome Professor Lima.
Yes, very nice to meet you all, and good afternoon. Very happy to join even the COVID pandemic, but we can do together, right? So that is, yeah, okay. And right now we have a topic that study the knowledge attitude toward mental among student faculty health in Chenla University. And it is, we use the cross-sectional study. Yeah, we use the cross-sectional study. Okay. And we have the content here because it is like the very short time. I will introduction for you about the Chenla University, and the second one we have goal and objective of the study, and the third one is the research and methodology for the result and conclusion and recommendation. Chenla University was established in 2007, and Chenla is one of the private universities that we focus on nursing school, midwife, and laboratory, including the non-medical skill. Chenla we have a special university comparing to another university because we have the Japanese language center. And until now, we have sent the student to work in Japan, more than 100 students to work in Japan. Yep. And I am so lucky, and I would like to give you the news. Like, I just got the approval from Ministry of Health in September 2019 to open the Faculty of Health Science, because Chenla, just like we have been working as a nursing school, but since 2007, September 2019, we got approval from Ministry of Health to open the Faculty of Health Science and Public Health. And right now we have a first generation for Master of Public Health here at Chenla University. And after the COVID pandemic, we will announcement we have recruited new, like we call the second Master of Public Health. And for the next year, I'm going to open the new department, like research department, psychiatric department, and ophthalmic department, dentist department, and Bachelor of Public Health also. Yeah. And right now we are on process of writing the proposal for asking the approval from Ministry of Health. Yeah, they will approval. Yeah, approve because I have I have, Chela is not so big university, but it's small. But we have a potential young human resource. And right now there are so many university from another country. They are preparing to have a Chela university. So, and I hope that maybe you are all can join together too. Yeah, and it is just briefly, it is like the first one, the first picture is like the lecture room, and we have the library room, and we have the meeting room, and we have the space room, like this is defense room. And Chela, we have 4 campuses in Phnom Penh and 1 in province. For the next year, I'm going to open the new like 2 or 3 in the provinces, because right now it's like frankly speaking, it's like more popular. When they are talking about the nursing school, they all think about the Chela University, especially the quality, and we have cooperation with the Indian, with the Thailand, Vietnam, and Philippines and Malaysia also. I'm going to join you with that too. Yeah, come up to the topic here, as you know, it's like study on the attitude for the medical student to the mental health in Chela University in 2020. And the objective here, I want to identify the social demographic information in the medical student. And the second, I will show you the knowledge and attitude of medical student to mental health. And the third one, that is very important, the most important here, I will show the relationship between some of the PA to the mental health, illness and demographic, like age, sex, education, and major. And the last one, based on the result, I will evaluate the knowledge. Though the student better improvement qualify, then I will use the reform. Maybe I will reward some of the curriculum at Chela University, and maybe I will set up some of the consultation room, like consultation room, like that. This show you, And the study design, we use the cross-sectional study. As you know, cross-sectional study you can do. I did it, and we surveyed the medical student at Chela with the criteria using questionnaire, guide for the processing of interview, and location here at Chela University, and we spent 3 days for data collection in January 2020. And the number, sample size based on the cross-sectional study, we use sample size by World Health Organization, and based on the World Health Organization, we use the sample size, and then we use the error 10%. So the final line we got is 76 students. Yeah, and we use sampling, we use cluster random sampling, because we don't want to use this simple random sampling, because we have the nursing, midwife, and laboratory. Yeah. Data collection here, we just use we spend only 20 minutes, because we don't want to interrupt the student during their study, and we don't want to spend time, because we use face-to-face, and we use the qualitative research also. We use open questionnaire to test it. And after to collect data, after data collection has been done, we use software, 2 kind of software that is like we call AP data and SPSS. AP data we just use for entering data, and after cleaning data, we transfer to SPS for data analysis. And based on the most of the activity, most of the variable of the study, we use qualitative variables. So we use the chi-square test for make sure the difference between some of the knowledge, some of the, for example, the association of knowledge and sex, or maybe attitude and sex, something, we use the chi-square test. And we use, for the quantitative data, like number, we use standard deviation only. What's up? Okay. After the data analysis, we have a result, because the time have limited. So I just show you okay, we can see the demographic information, like female and male, approximately the same. As you know, it is the nursing school, so female is 55.3% compared to the male, only 44.7%. And as you know, Cambodian is the religious is Buddhist. So, it's like around 90% is like Buddhist. And the major here, right, and the bachelor, bachelor is like 55.3%, associate degree, 16, and bachelor, and the last one, the associate degree, just only 2.67%. And the year of the study subject that joined the study, my study, we have the first year 26 and 34.2%, and the fourth year is the last year, is 14, around approximately 18.4%. And the study schedule here, you can see in Cambodia, in my school, we have the weekend, like we call it bridging course. Bridging course is like from they study from associate degree to bachelor degree. So most of them are health worker. So they come to study the weekend. And I frankly speaking here, Chenla is one of the top university that the bridging course that like have so many students they come to study it. Bridging cost 26 and 34.2%. And for the weekly schedule, we have 0 here. I mean the same as Monday to Saturday. It means even I'm the leader here. We set up the schedule like weekly Monday to Friday, but we still add more. We still add more the schedule like timetable to on Saturday. And so that is like you will see the result, the net result. Yeah, okay. And the marathon testator here, you can see most of them are single, and like additional job here. The most one like. No, not yet, because some of them just only study and they don't have job yet. Only the weekend student. Yeah. And here is like demographic, like they from the Kampong Cham is like 14 students from the Kampong Cham, and another one in Phnom Penh, in another country, something like that. Yeah. And based on the knowledge by gender distribution, I want to categorize by like knowledge of psychiatric to the gender here, because we use questionnaire, so many questionnaire for asking. But right now we just combine. You can see the low one here. For female and male, we can see the female. They have a knowledge. They have very good knowledge on psychiatric, even the prevention, even the how to know the signs, something like that, compared to the male. Yeah. And for the attitude, if we compare attitude for first year and upper second year, we can see the attitude of the student here for the first year is better than the upper second year. Like the total is 84.6% compared to 81.7%. It is. I have another question to ask them, because most of the attitude here, like the second year, like upper the second year, they said that okay, because the schedule, because they come to study and study a lot and passive learning, and they got a pressure from the family because they come to study a weekend. Yeah, that is the result when I compare. But it's not significantly different when we compare the chi-square test, even the knowledge. Yeah, and the last one is like related to the conclusion. All those 76 students, we have like 55.3% are female and 22.3 plus minus 4.7 standard deviation. Yeah, and most of them are like 76.3 are the first year student, and another like 34.2. All of them heard about the mental health illness. 97.4 knew at least one in some, but most of them just only 1 or 2. And the knowledge about the mental health was good, about the 85.5 in overall, and attitude score is high to average 82.8. There is small difference between the knowledge of this first first year student from the upper year, the average of the knowledge is like I just told you, 84.2 compared to the 86.3. P is like bigger than 0.5. And attitude contract between those group is is upper, like 79.5 compared to 78.9. And I come up to the last my presentation. Like I just have a 5 recommendation based on the data, based on the conclusion. The first one, Chenla Islamic School should set up the elective course on clinical or mental health of the student. Why? Because based on the data that I have just shown you, most of them, they got the mental. It's not mental health. I'm sorry. Like depression. Like they always craving on. Okay, study very hard. I could not go to meet someone. If I go to a psychiatric doctor, or I spend a lot of money. So that is I am going to set up elective course. Elective course here, it means we follow the study of based on the curriculum of Ministry of Health. But we will have elective course for all the students, and they will study more about it. Because right now the prevalence of psychiatric mental health, like depression in Cambodia, very high, very, very high. Yeah. And I hope that maybe next conference I will have some data related to the prevalence and related to some of the risk factor. Yeah. And the second one, Chenla University should have most frequent seminar. The last 2 years we have a lot of seminar on health, like reproductive health, mental health, nutrition research, compared to another one. Yeah. But it's not enough. I will have set up more conference for my student. And the third one, Chenla University should revise the schedule. Frankly speaking, I am a researcher, so I believe on data. Because most of the students, they said that, okay, why they study, why they crave, they said, oh, it's very tired, something like that. But the schedule of mine is one of the indicators. One of it's not indicator. One of the risk factor that make my student have very bad attitude too. So I will revise. I will ask the chief. Chief of the education student department, something like that. Will revise the schedule improperly. And the fourth one, Chenla University should set up training program related to mental health for Chenla students. Yeah, that is what I just showed you the introduction. Right now we are on the processing in writing the proposal for asking the Ministry of Health for open the master of psychiatric or the mental health, something like that. Yeah, we are on the process. And the last one, Chenla should have consultation room for the student. That is on the process too. And right now we have some of the funder that they ask me to support me. But right now it's on the process. I still stay on the process. Everything is on the process. Because of the COVID, everything is on the process. Yeah, that is my presentation. Thank you so much for joining us, for spending your time to listen to my presentation here. And I hope that all of you can join me for the international conference at Chenla University also. Yeah, thank you. Bye bye. Is it okay? Hello, Prof.
Thank you, Professor Lima, and thanks for all the speakers for today's great speech. So we got 5 more minutes. So if there are any questions, please, we can ask some questions, like short questions.
Q&A.
For 4 speakers, all of the speakers. Any questions?
I've been in India 5 times. have signed in MOU with the Indian institutions in Bangalore. Yeah. I hope we can sign more.
Love to collaborate, sir.
Yeah, right. Finance.
So any questions? I have one question for Dr. Deepika.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. It's a very nice study, and I noticed that the compulsory buying behavior is positively correlated with both the neuroticism and extrovertism. And any
Yes.
explanation about this one? Because it's really interesting.
Okay. Yeah, more of neuroticism because it would be considered as a little bit of being unstable in your personality. Unstable would be a layman term. But then more it would be like as in, they are not emotionally stable, not able to manage their emotional needs. For this, they use avoidance coping, and therefore these people are more likely to use compulsive buying as an avoidance technique to maintain the emotional balance. So these people, those who are more of neuroticism and extroverts, they are more likely to have compulsive buying traits. But then added with that, some other condition, predisposing conditions may help them go towards compulsive buying disorder.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any more
Thank you
questions?
so much.
Okay, another question for Professor Lima. So I noticed that the education, psychoeducation about the students in Chenla University should be very successful. So of course everyone know more about the mental health. So how could we do that? Is there any program for the mental health for the students, or how to establish the psycho education or their insight about the mental health?
Thank you so much for your good question. Based on the curriculum in Cambodia here, we, especially for the nursing, we have set up the lecture for, we have a lecture for mental health, like psychiatric, 30 hours, like two credit. But for Chenla University since 2017, I had add more, and especially sometimes I have be for NGO too. So when I came to I came to work at the PSI. I always ask them to join me, and then they come to write the report. And sometimes it is not like right now. It's the modern study. It's not based on curriculum. 30 hours is not enough, right? But we have right now Chenla have the very young human resource. There are MD, there are nurse, midwife, and master from abroad and inside too. And they study like, it's not like CBL, something like that. It's not like passive learning anymore. So they will have assignment to the Chenla University. And right now, I think they have very good knowledge, but it's not enough. I still want to add more. I still want to have elective course for the next year. And then, and Chenla will be cover the expenditure for the lecturer account. But frankly speaking, I have a new strategy here. I will ask the DAS, like a master degree of psychiatry or something like that. They are in internship. If they want to come to start to teach at Chenla, they must be volunteer, the first one. So they will come to have me, and then I will just give them the some of the, it's not enough money, but certificate and some of expenditure, something like that. And so
Okay, thank you. Thanks again for all the speakers and participants. So we'll have one more minute for Dr. Zhen.
Hi everyone, this is just the housekeeping announcement. Now we are having two sessions. One is for poster, hi Dr. Lima. The other is for the YI and YP. And please look out for this session and go to the next each either section you are interested in, I will see you in the YA and YP section.
Okay, thanks, Professor Zhen. So today this symposium would end up here, and thanks again for the joining. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Jim.